Hey guys, and welcome back. We're here again to review Younger Season 7, Episode 9. Episode 9. So let's get into it. Maggie has been canceled. And so she has been working on a new project. Liza hasn't really seen it. She's been working overnight. This new project that she's showing at this little dive bar in New York. At Empirical's office, Liza, Kelsey, and Lauren are talking about the book, Dylan Park's book, and how everybody is loving it online, and how they're still gonna plan on releasing the chapters slowly and just to get more buzz about the book. Charles comes up and he has read all the reviews, and Kelsey gets excited like, oh, you read the reviews, should we bring Dylan in? Don't you want to see her now that you see that how much people like this book? And he's still like, no, he still wants to make sure they are only taking in authors that are like well known and books that he know for sure are going to sell. He tells them like, no, I don't want to see. I'm still sticking to what I said. I don't want to sign her, and I want to stick to authors that we know. And he walks off. Kelsey is upset, and Liza goes after him like she's about to say something. And then when she goes after him in his office, she mentions that this author duo, this husband and wife duo that are married, one is a food critic, like a food writer, and the other one is an author, and they want to write a joint book together, and she has a meeting with them later. But she walked into his office like she was about to give him a piece of her mind about not accepting the Dylan Park book. And then when she didn't say it, I was like, why did they make it seem like she was gonna do that? I don't know why they did that. But so she tells him she's meeting with these two authors, these two writers, and that they want to write a book together. They are really famous, and they are meeting with her. And Charles asks her, can he sit on the meeting? Can he sit in on the meeting? Liza says, it's your company. You can do whatever you want to do. Because that's the way he's been acting lately. He's been acting like, my company, I'm going to do what I want. I don't care about nobody else's input. I don't care what anybody else thinks. That's how he has been acting the past season, for this whole season, really. So Kelsey is at work still, and she gets a call from Rob, which is Claire's ex, we know. And she goes into her office to take the call, but Lauren sees her going to her office, and Lauren gets suspicious. Lauren is like, what's going on there? So, because she's like leaving to take secret calls. So, like I said, she goes into her office, answers the call from Rob, and they are like flirting on the phone or whatever. So Rob asks Kelsey out again, but this time she says yes, to go to a hockey game. So she tells him yes, and so she's going out with Rob. I don't know. I think the best thing for her to do in that situation is to tell Claire immediately. Like, tell her, like, don't keep it a secret. Like, you live with Josh. Claire's going to come over there often because they have a baby together. So you should tell her, because I'm sure it's going to come out in a messy way. During the meeting with the authors, with Liza and Charles is sitting in on the meeting with Liza. The husband and wife duo, they're going over their book because they want it to be like, kind of like, is it a murder mystery book? I can't remember. But it's, Liza and Charles really love it. The male author, he is like somebody Charles has always looked up to, and they really like the idea of the book. So they're like, yeah, we definitely want to take a look at it. When they ask, like, okay, so who do we email the stuff to? Charles is like, me, and Liza says me. So they said at the same time. And Charles like, you could send it to the both of us. And I'm just like, Charles, you are the like chairman, the board person. This is not your job. Like, he is trying to take over and do all these things. This is Liza's job. You asked to sit in on me. He is being really annoying. Like, you asked to sit in on the meeting. You sitting in on the meeting because you can do whatever you want. It's your company. But at this point, you're trying to usurp things that are popular. And then I would probably try to take credit for getting these authors, getting these books, when there's people behind the scenes that are put in more work. And Charles is just, like, season 1, he was so likable. And I had a really tough time, like, oh, Josh or Charles or Josh. Even though I like Josh more. I love Josh more. I still was like, oh, Charles is a really good guy, and I still like him. This season, I'm like, I don't like Charles. And if they would have presented this Charles in season 1, it would have been no question. Like, it's no question really, but it would have really been no question season 1 if I was team Josh or not. Because this Charles season 7, no. They have taken him like notches that below from where he was. But yeah, Charles kind of tries to take over, but they kind of like settle at a we'll both be looking at the book, and they say they're gonna meet later that night to kind of go over notes, and then they'll send the notes to the authors, and the authors will decide if they want to go forward with Empirical. As they're leaving the meeting with the authors, Quinn and Lauren come into the office, kikiing and laughing together, being all buddy buddy. I guess they just, I don't know, they had a meeting, a work thing. And, Quinn is calling Lauren Low. She got a little nickname for her. And Liza's looking like Low. And Lauren's like, it's a nickname. I like it. As Charles is walking away, Quinn mentions that she got him a new watch, a Swiss expensive watch. She asks Liza, what do you think Charles thinks about the watch? Does he like the watch? And everything like that. And Liza says, don't overthink it. A little annoyed that Quinn would even come to Liza for advice. We are not friends, and I don't want to establish us as such. We are not. We are employed, like colleagues. You dating my ex-man. But no point in your relationship have they established a friendship. They have established an understanding, I would say. But we do not need to talk about common things between us and Charles. What he like, me giving you an advice on him. Why would I give you advice on him? What? Who would do that in the real world? Nobody. So as Liza walks away, she just tells Quinn, don't overthink it. Don't worry about the watch. And Lauren says maybe he just doesn't like gifts because he didn't get Liza a ring when he proposed to her. And Quinn's looking confused because she's like, she didn't even know that Charles and Liza, like that Charles had proposed to Liza. So that is news to her. So she's looking very confused and like shocked. So, they go from there. So after Kelsey's date with Rob, things are going really good. She enjoyed the date, but she does think that things will get complicated because of the Claire relationship. But she just decides to go with it, and they kiss. They have their first kiss. And I'm just like, okay, at this point, you like him. So it's not like, oh, I don't even know if I like him. That's why I'm not going to tell. I don't know if I like him yet. So I haven't told yet. But now you like him. Now you want to continue to see him. So tell Claire next time you see him, like, hey, Claire, by the way, I ran into Rob and we hit it off and blah, 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 blah. At least, that's the least you can do. Like, she says they're not friends, but they are friends. In a way, like they're not close friends, but they're friends. And you dating your friend ex-man and she don't know, that sounds shady. Because then I'll be like, how long you been seeing each other? Was it before we broke up? Like, it'll make her jump to a more conclusion. Tell her. I wouldn't do it at all. But she's doing it. So you need to tell this girl who you see often that you dating her ex-man. So after the day, she sneaks into the apartment. Like I said, she lives with Josh and Lauren. She lives with Josh and Lauren. So she sneaks into the apartment, and Lauren is waiting for her in the dark. She turns on the lights and is startled by Lauren. And Lauren's kind of like, where have you been? And she was like, nowhere. And like, who you been with? So Lauren thinks she's been sneaking around with Zane, but she lets her know like it hasn't been Zane. And so Lauren is kind of like, then who is it? Like, why are you sneaking around? And she doesn't tell Lauren. So Lauren is like, feel like you keeping me in the dark, literally. You're not letting me know anything. So she's still suspicious of Kelsey. At the same night, Liza and Charles are at the office working on the book, making notes on the book so that they can send the notes to the author. And they're just chatting, having a friendly chat. They seem to be getting along. And Charles mentions that they always have worked well together. And they kind of look at each other. And it's kind of like not awkward, but like it was a telling look. Like, because you could tell they still like each other. But they've always worked well together. And Liza just kind of, to cut the tension, Liza says, I'll finish this up and I'll email them from both of us. I'll email the writers our notes. So Charles leaves. The next morning, as Liza's leaving to go to work, Quinn is outside her dang on apartment. Where has Quinn ever been to Liza's apartment? How everybody know where Liza lives? But Quinn is outside Liza's apartment in her town car. And she's like, she's there to pick up Liza for breakfast. We are not friends. I'm not getting in the car with you, baby. I'm not. But whatever, Liza. She goes. So at breakfast at this little diner, Quinn is kind of asking Liza questions about Charles. Quinn asks Liza, what are Charles's red flags? Like, what would make you turn him down for marriage? Like, what would be his red flags since you turned him down? And she's like, it wasn't, she basically says, like, Charles is the one that broke up with me because I didn't want to get married. And, I just don't want to get married. She is very gracious about it and nice about it. She said, Charles doesn't really have any red flags. I just didn't want to get married at the time. And he broke up with me because of it. And she says, but if she did have to say a red flag that he does have is that he is very stubborn when he doesn't get his way. That he has very rigid ideals of the way he thinks things should be, and they shouldn't be any other way besides the way that he wants them. Quinn is surprised by the fact that Liza didn't want to get married because she says she thinks that she's always figured Liza was the type that would want to get married. She said, as for her, Quinn herself, she said she never really thought about marriage, like signing a contract for marriage, and because she's rich and she's a businesswoman, like it would be so much paperwork involved, and she never really would have thought about marriage. And then her and Liza mentions, like, seems like we have more than we thought in common. Quinn says, give or take a few billion. Quinn always got those shades, which is why we're not friends. So stop inviting me to breakfast. So we go back to Josh's apartment. Claire and Josh are leaving to take Gemma to the doctor, and Claire and Josh sees like a foam finger from like a hockey game on the table, and Claire sees, and she's like, oh, that reminds me of something Rob got me. And Kelsey is looking suspicious, and Lauren sees her, and Lauren kind of puts two and two together, so she puts it together as Rob. And Lauren follows her outside on her way to work, and she's like, she busts her, like, is Rob you're dating? Kelsey kind of tries to justify it, saying, like, me and Claire are not friends. Claire is not my friend. She kind of tries to say that her and Claire are not that close. And Lauren tells her, you all are close enough. You are adjacent friends. You are almost there. Too close to be dating her ex without her knowing, which I agree. Kelsey says that she will tell Rob that she cannot see him anymore. We are at a restaurant, and Redmond is meeting with Liza and Kelsey, and basically when he gets there, he wants to get in touch with Dylan Bart because he wants to be her agent. He's like, he could get her, like, he can like be her agent. He wants to be her agent, and they're like, we can't speak on behalf of Dylan. We don't feel comfortable speaking about her career or her book without her being here. And he's kind of like, what? Like, that's what you do as the publisher, you are trying to sell, you want the best deals for her. And so they're acting real shady. They could have played it much better and he would have never caught on. But the way they were acting, like they're like, we can't really speak about it, blah, blah, blah. And he kind of puts it together. He's like, you all didn't release her book and her chapters and promote her and do all this without signing her first, did you? He said, Incubator is not just a poor sweatshop, is it? Really taking people's content and releasing it for free and not paying them. And he's like, either you let me in or I will cut you out. Because he says he could get her a good deal, which I'm sure he could. He could get her a good book deal with somebody else. So if they don't like cut him in on whatever they got going when Dylan blows up, then he can talk to Dylan himself and he can get her to sign with another book company. Because right now Dylan is not signed to anybody because Charles refuses to add her to the roster. He doesn't want to spend money on a new author. So after Redmond leaves, they're like, we need to figure out a way to do this because we need to keep Dylan. We cannot lose her. So Liza and Charles have a phone interview, like a phone meeting with the married author couple, married writer couple, and they say they love their notes. They want to have dinner with them to discuss the chapters and everything, and if they want to move forward, blah, blah, blah. And so Liza and Charles agree to it, to have dinner that night. And so they are really excited about it. Once they get off the phone call, Liza is so excited, she jumps up and hugs Charles, but then she catches herself and she's like, okay, sorry, and she kind of backs up. And Liza was going to speak with Charles again about Dylan's book, trying to get money for Dylan's book, but she decides not to because he's gonna have to figure out how to get the money for these authors because they are like super famous, super rich I'm sorry, super famous, and they will be expensive to keep on their roster to buy their book. So when she's going to talk to Kelsey, Kelsey says she's decided that they're going to make an app, and they're going to keep releasing the chapters through Vulture. But then when it gets towards further along in the book, they'll stop releasing the chapters and tell the readers that they have to pay for their app to get the rest of the book on the app. But at this time, they don't know anybody who makes apps. They don't know how to make an app. But that is the idea that they have right now. And Kelsey says she'll put her money into it to make it happen. Her money for her apartment, she'll put it into it to make it happen. And then once Charles and Empirical see how amazing it is, Empirical will pay her back because she has no doubt that they'll want to buy it. But I'm just like, why even give it to them? Why even sell it to them? Do it yourself. Don't even get him no piece of your idea. Charles is outside Liza's loft to pick her up for dinner that night that they have with the writers. And Quinn is texting him, and he lets Quinn know that he's going to have dinner with the writers and Liza, so he's honest about it. It seemed like for a second he was contemplating whether he should tell her that he's going to be with Liza as well, but he does tell her the truth. At dinner, they're discussing the book. Everything's going well. They're discussing food, everything. And everybody smiles all around. And then all the authors... Charles is loving it, the author's loving it, Liza's loving it. But then the two authors, the married couple, they mention that they want to write under a pen name. So it gives them a sense of mystery and the readers won't know who they are. And Charles is looking like, why? Why would you want to write under a pen name? And Liza is okay with it, but Charles is looking at them like, why would you want to write under a pen name? And he tells them that that they don't need a gimmick, like they have their name. They're famous. They don't need a gimmick. Why would they want to write under a pen name? And he also says, like, readers don't like being lied to. And it seems like he's really speaking about his and Liza's relationship. Like, he feel like she lied to him, which she did lie to him in the beginning, but they got over that, I thought. And if you're not over that, we should have addressed it then. They'll come back seasons later, still mad about that. The writers say they're set on using the pen name. And he put his foot down, too. He's like, if you're set on using the pen name... I'm so sorry, Empirical cannot publish your book. They still have to go to dinner. They still have to have dinner. So this was before dinner. So I guess it was a super awkward dinner. You do that afterwards. He should have said that as he was leaving after dinner. Like, by the way, as you're leaving, I'm so sorry we can't publish your book. But to do it right before dinner, now we got to sit and make awkward small talk and pretend like we're happy like we're fine. No. You should have did that after dinner. So leaving dinner, they're about to get in the car. I mean, Liza just stops and she calls Charles stubborn. She said it always has to be his way or nothing, and it's true. Like, he is never open to anything else, especially within their relationship. Like, he is not open to seeing things her way about marriage or anything. And now with this author thing, and first of all, is a CEO always the one that makes the decisions on if books get published? You know what I mean? Like, aren't there other people and companies that make those decisions? Why would he be the one that makes all decisions for this? Every book we publish, we have to ask him first. I don't know how publishing companies work, but that doesn't sound right. Like, does every book have to go through the CEO? And he says yes or no to every single book. I would imagine CEOs don't see most of the books that their company publish before they publish them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, because that doesn't even seem like an effective use of time. But yeah, she calls him stubborn and says whenever he doesn't like something, it's either his way or nothing at all. She says it was the same way with them, and that's why they aren't together now, because she didn't want to get married right away, and she couldn't tell him she wanted to marry him then at that moment when they had never talked about marriage before. That's what I'm saying. They had never even spoken about marriage, and you're breaking up with me because I don't want to get married to you right this second. We ain't even had the conversation. They hadn't even been dating long. Like, her and Josh talked about marriage several times. Her and Josh talked about having kids several times. So, and that's why they knew that was the issue. But that kid issue is solved now. Josh has a kid. So, that's what I thought they were giving Josh the baby for in season 6, because that would solve him and Liza's baby issue that they had about her not wanting to have any more kids. Now he has a kid. And, and now they can just get married and be together. He says the whole thing with them is that he always wanted to know if he had all of her. and if she really loved him. And she says he did have all of her, and she did really love him. And he's looking kind of like, like sure. And she realized that he doesn't believe her. And I don't know. I don't know, because maybe because I'm biased, I would say she didn't either. I would hope she didn't, because I don't want them to be together. But she says she did. But she tells him, she looks at him and she's like, I wish I didn't still love you. I wish I didn't love you. And I'm like, me too. I also wish the same. She walks away and he's like, kind of like, what are you doing? Because he brought her there. And she says she's ordering an Uber and he can leave. Her Uber will be here in 3 minutes. Her Uber will be there in 3 minutes. So he leaves. She comes home and Maggie is talking about her art and her being canceled. And then she turns around and Liza breaks down crying and is emotional and Maggie hugs her. Maggie is a really good friend. The only thing is that every time Maggie tries to talk about herself, Liza's issues and everything she's dealing with do eclipse a lot of the things that Maggie is trying to talk about. Like, she's going through the whole internet being upset with her, hating her. We need to talk about this for a minute. You have problems, I got problems too. And so I do think that Liza needs to be more a supportive friend. Like, literally every time Maggie is discussing things that are happening with her, Liza brings up her issues with Charles or her issues with Quinn and stuff like that. And I'm like, Maggie is having issues as well, real issues that affect her day-to-day life. Y'all need to have a conversation as a friend and get that straightened out, because I like Liza, but sometimes she is selfish, and in that instance, I would say that's some instance where she is selfish. Everything else is fine, but that right there, yeah. So she's crying and emotional. Maggie hugs her. So Charles shows up for the event he missed with Quinn to go to dinner, and he shows up to the event, and she's like, "You made it." And he says, dinner ended early, and he tells her about that they're not going to. He tells her that they're not going to do the book with the writers, and he tells her they wanted to write under a pen name and he didn't like that. Yeah, he says that maybe he's too stubborn, and she says, for the record, I would have said yes. And he's like, yes to what? And she's like, to you, meaning kind of like she heard that he proposed to Liza, and if he would have asked her, the answer would have been yes. And I'm like, really? The answer would have been yes? Y'all been dating for 2 weeks. Stop it. So yeah, so she says she would have said yes to him, implying that she would have said yes to a marriage proposal to him. And Charles is looking pleased, and they walk away together. And I'm just like, Charles just wants someone who's going to agree with him blindly, go with whatever he says. And he wants the person Liza was before this whole journey she went on. Like, he wants who Liza was before Liza got with David, before Liza had her kids, but like back in the day. Like, Liza is her own person now, and she don't want to do what you want to do. And Charles wants somebody who is going to be about him, be about his dreams, be about his ideas, his ideals, everything. And that's not who she is. She got her own opinions, and they do not agree or coincide with yours. That they're just different. And again, that is the thing with them being on separate journeys, which is why they do not belong together. Like, couples don't have to have the same things that they like, the same ideas. They don't have to agree on everything, but they have to respect the other's opinions and the other's journey, the other's things. And he only accepts and respects his own and the people that agree with him, which is why I think he is okay with Quinn, because at this time, Quinn is trying to please him, do whatever he wants, and is showing her best side. But when she wants to do things that don't coincide with what he wants, I'm sure it'll be a problem. You know what I mean? Like, because he hasn't really experienced the whole of Quinn yet, because he don't really know her yet. You know what I mean? But that's basically how it ends. They walk off together. But thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought of the episode, and I'll see you on my next video.